My wife left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm done with you. The house is sold. Pack your things and leave." I read the words twice, but the meaning settled in immediately. The cold marble beneath my fingertips traveled straight into my chest. It wasn't anger. It was that quiet moment when a man realizes everything has already changed. The door behind me was locked. The security code had been changed. My car key no longer opened the garage. I wasn't even a guest in my own home anymore. Then my phone lit up with a notification. I looked at the screen and suddenly, everything made sense. Upstairs behind the sheer white curtains, I could see her silhouette. She was standing there making sure I understood. "My name is Cameron, 43 years old. I just returned from my cardiologist when I found the note. The appointment had gone well. My heart rhythm was stable, blood pressure normal. 6 months after the procedure, and I was finally cleared to return to full activity." I remember feeling relief as I drove home through the October cold, the kind of relief that makes you believe the worst is behind you. I was wrong. The worst was waiting on my kitchen counter under a crystal paperweight. I tried the front door code 3 times before I accepted it had been changed. Then the garage, then the side entrance, all locked. I walked around to the back patio. The slider was open. She'd missed that one. Inside the house smelled like sage and expensive candles. Classical music played softly from the living room. Everything looked untouched, peaceful, normal, except the note. I stood there reading it 4 times. Not because I didn't understand, because I was calculating how long she'd been planning this, how many days she'd spent deciding the exact words, how carefully she'd chosen that specific paper. Cream, textured, the kind you buy for important correspondence. I heard her footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. She wasn't surprised I was there. She was waiting. "Jennifer," I called. She appeared at the landing, cashmere sweater, pearl earrings, hair pulled into a low twist. She looked like she was about to leave for the theater, not end a marriage. "You found it," she said. "What is this?" "It's clarity." Clarity. I held up the note. "You can't sell a house by leaving a note, Jennifer. Watch me." The confidence in her voice was new. Or maybe it had always been there and I'd stopped listening. "I need your signature." "You have it." "What?" She descended 3 stairs and stopped. "You signed everything I needed 2 months ago. You were recovering. I brought the documents to you." I remembered, vaguely. She'd come to the house with a leather portfolio, said it was insurance paperwork, beneficiary updates. I'd been exhausted, still experiencing minor tremors in my left hand. She'd placed the pages in front of me one by one, pointed to the signature lines. I'd signed. I trusted her. That memory tasted different now. "Those weren't insurance documents," I said slowly. "They were everything else." Her expression didn't change. "Where am I supposed to go?" "You'll figure it out. You always do." Something moved behind her eyes. Not guilt, not even satisfaction. Fear. "Jennifer, who's buying the house?" "That's already arranged." "When?" "Monday, 10 a.m. Closing is done." "This isn't legal." "It's extremely legal, Cameron. I had an attorney review everything." My chest tightened, but not from my heart. From the slow realization that this had been choreographed, planned, rehearsed. I walked to the counter and picked up the note, turned it over, wrote 3 words on the back. "Not yet." I set it down exactly where I'd found it. She stared at the paper. "What does that mean?" "It means you made an assumption." "About what?" "About what I know." I walked out through the patio door. The cold air burned my lungs. I didn't go to a hotel. I went to see the one person who'd know exactly what she'd done. Richard Moss was 73 years old. He'd been practicing estate law since before I was born. His office was in a narrow brick building downtown that smelled like old books and lemon oil. I walked in at 4:30 without calling. His assistant recognized my face and waved me past the waiting room. Richard was at his desk reading something on a tablet. He looked up over his reading glasses, saw my expression, closed the door behind me himself. "She locked you out," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, and there's a note." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He opened his laptop and started typing before I said another word. "When's the closing?" "Monday morning," he nodded. Pulled up county records, typed my name, scrolled, stopped. "There it is, a deed transfer filed this morning. Your signature." I leaned forward. The scan was clear. My handwriting, shaky but unmistakably mine. "When did I sign that?" He zoomed in on the date stamp. September 14th. I was barely walking on September 14th. Exactly. Richard turned the screen toward me. "Do you remember signing this specific document?" "Number." "Do you remember signing anything that day?" "She brought papers. I signed." "How many?" "I don't know. 5, maybe 6. Richard removed his glasses, cleaned them with a cloth, put them back on. "The house isn't in your name, Cameron." "I know." He paused. "You know?" "I restructured everything 8 years ago, after the Hendricks lawsuit." He nodded slowly. "The LLC, yes. So she can't transfer what she doesn't own." "Correct." He leaned back in his chair. "But she thinks she can." "Let me guess. She used a medical power of attorney." He pulled up another document, signed September 16th, 2 days after the deed, while you were still recovering. "Does it give her property authority?" "No." "Does she know that?" "Apparently not, or she's betting you won't challenge it." I stared at the screen, my signature on both documents, shaky, drugged, obedient. She'd waited until I was weakest. Richard's voice dropped. "There's more." "Show me." He pulled up our joint accounts, then he pulled up accounts I didn't recognize. Credit cards, lines of credit, a private loan, all opened in the last 4 months, all in my name. "How much?" $340,000. My stomach turned. Richard clicked through transaction records, transfers, wire payments, international routing numbers. And this. He opened a corporate filing, a Shell LLC registered in Delaware. 2 members, Jennifer's name, and someone named Elliot Webb. I sat back. Who is he? Real estate developer, mid-size projects, office conversions, mixed use. Richard pulled up a news article. Webb had a condo project collapse in Boulder 18 months ago. Investors sued, contractors filed liens. He was underwater. Badly. How bad? Richard pulled up a court filing. $970,000, owed to a private equity firm, payment due 8 weeks ago. He defaulted. They're pursuing criminal fraud charges. The air in the room felt thinner. "She's trying to save him," I said. Richard nodded. "And she's using you to do it." "How do you know him?" "I don't." "You met him." "When?" 2 years ago. Gala at the art museum. You introduced me." I didn't remember. Richard turned his screen again. A photo from the event. Jennifer in a black dress. Me in a tuxedo. And beside her a man in his late 40s. Silver hair, expensive watch, hand resting on the small of her back. I remembered that hand. Elliot Webb. He talked about mountain properties, investment opportunities. I'd found him tedious. Jennifer had laughed at everything he said. Richard's voice pulled me back. She's been moving money to him for 3 months. Structured transactions, just under reporting thresholds. She knew what she was doing. I looked at the filings, the transfers, the forged documents. This wasn't panic. This was architecture. "How much time do we have?" "Till Monday." "Not enough." Richard smiled faintly. "It is if you've already moved." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you didn't come here to ask what to do. You came here to confirm what you'd already done." I didn't answer. Richard leaned forward. "When did you buy his debt?" 48 hours ago. I'd hired someone 5 weeks earlier, not because I suspected Jennifer, because the numbers didn't make sense. Credit alerts I didn't recognize. Transfers from accounts I rarely checked. My accountant flagged it during a quarterly review. I could have confronted her. I didn't. I watched. I hired a forensic investigator, former Treasury. He specialized in tracking money people didn't want found. It took him 12 days. He called me on a Tuesday night. You need to see this in person. I met him in a coffee shop in Golden. He slid a tablet across the table. On it was a flowchart. My accounts, Jennifer's accounts, the Shell LLC, and at the center of it all, Elliott Webb. He's drowning, the investigator said. The equity firm that holds his note is ready to file criminal charges. He's got 2 weeks, maybe 3. Can you find the lender? Already did. And they're motivated. How motivated? I bought the note for 62 cents on the dollar. As of this morning, Elliott Webb owed me $970,000. And Jennifer had no idea. Richard closed his laptop. So when she tries to close on Monday, the title company already has your notice. Certified copies of the LLC. Filed this morning. Richard smiled. She's going to call you. She already has. How many times? 56. You didn't answer. No. Why? Because silence is the only language panic understands. By Sunday morning, Jennifer had called 73 times. She'd left 11 voicemails. I listened to the first one. Cameron, what did you do? The title company is saying the house is in an LLC. They're saying I don't have authority. Call me back. This isn't funny. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear it underneath. The fear. The second voicemail was louder. Cameron, I know you're getting these. You need to fix this. The buyer is threatening to walk. If this falls apart, everything falls apart. Do you understand me? Everything. The third voicemail was different. Quieter. Please, just call me. We can work this out. I deleted all of them. Then I called Richard. Is she panicking? Completely. Good. Monday morning I dressed carefully. Charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. I wanted to look present, not performative. I drove downtown, parked 2 blocks away, walked through the October wind to Richard's building. He was waiting in the conference room. Dark wood, glass walls, view of the mountains. At 9:45 the door opened. Jennifer walked in. She was alone. No attorney, no Elliott. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her blazer hung slightly loose. Her makeup couldn't quite cover the exhaustion. She saw me and stopped. What are you doing here? Observing. Cameron, this isn't a game. You're right. She sat down across from me. Richard remained standing. Mrs. Harrell, he began. Don't, she said. Just don't. She looked at me. Fix this. I can't. Yes, you can. One phone call. The LLC is public record. You've known about it for 8 years. I didn't know it mattered. It always mattered. You just didn't ask. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the table. The buyer is walking. They're pulling their deposit. If this sale doesn't close... She stopped. Didn't finish. I finished for her. Elliott loses everything. Her face went white. How do you know about Elliott? I know everything, Jennifer. The loans, the shell company, the transfers. How long did you think you could move $300,000 without me noticing? I was protecting us. You were protecting him. Her eyes filled. You don't understand. Then explain it. He was going to jail, Cameron. They were going to file criminal charges. I couldn't let that happen. Why? Because I love him. The room went silent. She didn't take it back, didn't soften it, just left it there, raw. How long? 2 years. I nodded slowly. Did it start before or after my procedure? Her jaw tightened. Does it matter? Yes, after, barely. So you waited until I almost died. That's not fair. No, I said, it's accurate. Richard placed a folder on the table. Inside were the documents, all of them, the forged transfers, the Shell LLC, the medical power of attorney she'd misused, and at the bottom, the promissory note. Jennifer opened it. Her hands stopped shaking. She just stared. "You bought his debt," she whispered. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you bet everything on me not noticing." Her voice cracked. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand what you did. I made a mistake. You made a plan." Tears finally came. "I was terrified, Cameron. You almost died. I watched you in that hospital bed and I realized I had nothing. No career, no money in my name. Nothing. If you died, I'd be completely dependent on whatever you decided to leave me. That's not security. That's captivity. So you found someone who made you feel free." She wiped her eyes. "He made me feel visible." "And I made you feel what?" She didn't answer. Richard leaned forward. "Mrs. Harrell, we're prepared to file fraud charges this afternoon. Wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, financial exploitation of a medically vulnerable person. These are federal offenses." Her head dropped. "How much time?" "None, unless..." She looked up. "Unless what?" Richard slid a separation agreement across the table. "You sign. You leave. You cooperate fully. And we don't file." She read through it in silence. "This leaves me with almost nothing. It leaves you with what you came into the marriage with. That was 17 years ago." "I know." She looked at me. "Where am I supposed to go?" "You'll figure it out. You always do." I used her words. She heard it, felt it land. She picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the signature line. "If I sign this, you walk away, with nothing criminal on your record. And Elliot." Richard's voice was cold. "Mr. Webb's debt is now owned by your husband. That's between them." She signed, stood, walked to the door, stopped. "You were always like this," she said without turning around. "Like what?" "Cold, prepared." "I was never cold, Jennifer. I was just never careless." She left. The door clicked shut. Richard looked at me. "You feel anything?" I thought about it. "No." He nodded. "That's probably healthy." The closing never happened. The buyers were refunded in full. Elliot Webb received formal notice that his debt had been reassigned. Payment due in 30 days. He tried to call. I didn't answer. He sent frantic emails. I didn't read them. He showed up at my office. Security escorted him out. 3 weeks later, he filed for bankruptcy protection. I attended the hearing, sat in the back, watched him stand in front of a judge and admit he had no assets, no income, no path forward. The judge discharged the debt. I didn't object. It wasn't about the money. It was about watching him understand what happens when you build on someone else's foundation. Jennifer moved to Sedona. Her sister had a guest house. We never spoke again. The divorce finalized in 90 days. She didn't contest a single term. One evening 4 months later, I received a voicemail. Her voice was different, softer, uncertain. "Cameron, I don't know if you'll listen to this. I just wanted to say I was wrong. About everything. I thought you were weaker than you were. I thought the procedure had taken something from you. It didn't. It just made you quieter. Elliot's gone. I don't know where. The business collapsed. I'm living with my sister, substitute teaching. I don't know what I thought I was protecting. I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, because I didn't see you." I paused the message, replayed that last part. "Because I didn't see you." She was right. She'd stopped seeing me years before the procedure. Maybe I'd stopped letting her see me. Maybe we'd both disappeared into the machinery of a marriage that looked perfect from the outside and felt empty from within. I didn't call her back, but I didn't delete the message either. I sold the house 6 months later. Didn't need it. Too many rooms, too much echo. I bought a loft downtown, 20th floor, concrete and glass, Minimal furniture. Everything I owned fit in one room. There was something clarifying about that. One evening I was sitting by the window watching the city lights flicker on. My phone was face down on the table, silent. No calls, no emergencies, just space. A text came through. Unknown number. Mr. Harrell, this is Elliot. I know you don't want to hear from me. I just wanted you to know I've rebuilt. Smaller, sustainable. I'll never be able to repay what you discharged, but I'm trying to live differently. I stared at the message, thought about responding. Didn't. Not out of cruelty, out of completion. Another text came through 2 minutes later. I understand your silence. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. I set the phone down, turned it off. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from clarity. I kept thinking about the note. I'm done with you. The house is sold. Pack your things and leave. I'd kept it. It was in a drawer in my desk. I got up, pulled it out, looked at the back where I'd written, not yet. I crossed it out, wrote something else underneath. Now. I didn't throw the note away. I folded it carefully, put it back in the drawer, closed it. Some things you keep not as trophies but as proof. Proof that you can be erased from your own life if you're not watching. Proof that trust without structure is just hope. Proof that the quietest people in the room are often the ones who've already read the ending. Here's what I learned. Strength at this age isn't what you say. It's what you've already built before anyone asks. It's the documents you filed when everything was fine. The LLCs you structured when you didn't think you'd need them. The silence you chose when noise would have felt better. Jennifer thought my recovery made me weak. It didn't. It made me pay attention. She thought the procedure had diminished my capacity. It hadn't. It had clarified my priorities. She assumed I'd be too tired or too medicated or too grateful to notice. She was wrong. Not because I'm smarter, because I was watching. Panic makes noise. Preparation doesn't. Assumption talks. Documentation listens. Emotion demands response. Structure just performs. Jennifer made the loudest moves of her life, and I made the quietest. Guess which one lasted? 6 months after the divorce, I was back in that same chair, watching the mountains turn violet under the sunset. A glass of whiskey on the table. No ice. The window reflected the room behind me. Empty. Calm. Earned. My phone stayed off. The city hummed 20 floors below. Thousands of lives intersecting. Thousands of decisions echoing forward. I didn't feel victorious. I felt accurate. And accuracy at this age is the only thing worth protecting. If you've ever signed something you didn't fully read, if you've ever trusted someone who saw your weakness as opportunity, if you've ever been told you're too sick or too broken or too old to protect what's yours, you're not. But don't announce it. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just build quietly. Document constantly. And when someone leaves you a note saying it's already over, make sure you've already written the ending. If this story changed how you think about trust, structure, and silence, leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you'd do differently. And if you want more stories about the kind of power that doesn't need to be spoken, subscribe. Because the loudest victories are often the quietest ones. And we're just getting started.